So, where we last left off with the My Hero Academia story, Hawks was placed beneath the boot of Dabi just before attempting to deal a major, if not otherwise fatal, blow to Twice. And here, with this latest chapter, Happy Life, we pick up right where we left off. Hawks somehow miraculously managed to evade Dabi's point-blank attack, while also securing the safety of Twice. And I have absolutely no idea how he did it, and apparently I am not the only one, because even Dabi had to question what the hell happened, but ended up just leaving it at that, a question. I guess Hawks is really just that damn fast. I'm actually kind of impressed. However, Dabi knows damn well that he is in the driver's seat when it comes to this fight, considering he managed to turn the majority of Hawk's feathers into ash already. But disregarding that for a moment, Hawks mentioned that Dabi nearly burnt Twice to death with that move, to which Dabi replied that he knows heroes must always be ready to save a life. Now, this didn't exactly make a whole lot of sense to me simply because of what we just established. He was surprised Hawks evaded his attack to begin with. So on what planet would you assume that he'd be able to save Twice, or even desire to, while incapable of saving himself? It just doesn't make much sense to me. But I do question where this particular sentiment may stem from. Is this just general knowledge of hero society, or is it more so tied to personal experiences? Experiences which may have led to the ideology of Stain resonating with him and turn him to a life of crime. Personally, I'd have to give it to the latter if he's willing to bet his friend's life on it. But it seems like Hawks took this statement as bullshit, and continued that with such a sizable attack, it was as if Dabi knew Hawks was a double agent, and further questioned what gave it away. But Dabi, being as chaotic as ever, said that nothing gave Hawks away. He just never trusted a word he said from the beginning. And would you look at that big brain go, because while having this brief exchange, Hawks was actually taking the time to assess his current predicament. The left side of his face was a sight for sore eyes, his wings were in tatters, the matchup was horrible for him, and they're in a cramped space, making the location also unfavorable to him. So however you look at it, on paper, he is in the loser's seat. So if nothing else, the mission has to come first. Twice must be dealt with. And luckily for Hawks, prior to Dabi's entrance, he had already managed to slice apart Twice's tendons and such, making any excessive attempts at movement and such virtually impossible. From there, the plan would be for him to just carry the weakened man away and make his escape. But Twice couldn't go like that. He made a clone as fast as he could and had it grapple Hawks and hold him in place for Dabi's next attack, and good lord, the amount of force needed for Flames to break through several layers of solid concrete is ridiculous, so Dabi really isn't messing around here. And he most definitely wanted all hell to break loose, as he told Twice that with his quirk alone he could wipe out the heroes easily, so he should get to the battlefield immediately to go crazy because everyone is waiting for him. To which Twice agreed to. With one hand he clutched to something, and with the other he daps Dabi up real quick before creating another clone. But it is then that from the other side of the building, after having flown outside with the flames and circling back, Hawks appears with killing intent, and with that, Twice let out a vicious battle cry as Dabi uttered the true name of Hawks, Takami Keigo. Now, this is significant for a few reasons. Firstly, this is the first time Hawks' true name has appeared in the manga, as prior to this chapter, we had only ever received it from the Ultra Analysis character information book. Now, for some heroes, if not most, their true identities are made to be public information, especially in this current age where there are entire institutions aimed towards the cultivation of young heroic talent. True names are well known. However, Hawks from a very young age had been honed and trained directly by the Hero Association and never attended any sort of hero school like UA, and so it's not so hard to believe that his true identity would have been kept under wraps, especially considering just how surprised he was to hear Dabi utter it, even provoking him to question, like everyone else in the fandom, Who the hell is Dabi anyways? Now, because Dabi let off another attack, Hawks had no choice but to evade, which gave Twice the chance to exit off to the balcony. It was then that he looked down at all the mayhem ensuing below and remarked that he had to protect everyone, because with his quirk, something like that is quite possible. And for me, that is just so interesting. To see a villain so hellbent on the protection of others is quite fascinating, because despite their stance against society, they are the ones that really accepted him and gave him a purpose. He recognized that he'd caused problems and pain for them in the past, but decided he needed to change that. He needed to do his part here, and so he began by letting out another clone of his to his left. But as he did this, the somewhat still searing blade of Hawks was poised behind his back, as the dutiful eyes of Hawks were fixed on him behind that. Twice had been stabbed, and soon after would plummet to his death. Meanwhile, Toga and Mr. Compress had been apprehended by a hero with pretty spectacular binding capabilities. So spectacular, in fact, that even Toga's typical acrobatic escape tactics failed to evade their sensory. But just as he'd captured them, the aforementioned clone of Twice stabbed him in the back of the head with a knife, killing him instantly. Which, in hindsight, was probably one of the more explicit ways in which a hero has been defeated that we've seen firsthand. But with that, he managed to save the two, and with them all together, Mr. Compress immediately told Twice to make more clones off the bat. But Twice would go on to say that he can't, which certainly came at a shock to Compress, who asked why not. So Twice explained the general gist of the situation, and that simply maintaining his form then and there was already unbearable enough. He then continued to profusely apologize, but upon seeing the small bruises on Toga's face, brought out the handkerchief she'd given him all the way back during the overhaul arc, which is what he had been holding onto earlier on in the chapter. He was returning it to her as he slowly began to fall apart. He was grateful for the life he lived and the friends he was blessed enough to have as he found his place in the world. Toga wrapped her arms around him and thanked him for saving her as he slowly degraded in her embrace. In his head, he told Hawks to go ahead and die, that he wasn't unlucky at all, that being with the League made him nothing but happy. And that's the chapter. This to me was a top 10 kind of chapter. It was phenomenal. I mean, this was the definition of a loss. Villain or not, Twice was someone who truly loved his friends to death and was willing to give everything to protect them. He was one of the most likable characters in the entire series, and although we previously predicted his death in this arc, it doesn't come to us at any less of an impact. This hurts. It really does. And to me, has to be the biggest death in the entire series thus far. As far as I'm concerned, it is deeper than Night Eyes. I mean, not to belittle the impact of that, but he died in the same arc we met him in. Meanwhile, we know Twice. Like, we know his entire life story, and honestly, he was just too good for this world. I love Hawks, and hey, he did his damn job, but I don't know how to feel about him right now, honestly. All I know is that we're gonna keep the Sad Man's Parade going over here. But just knowing that this arc is only just getting started has me both immensely excited and also scared shitless. I mean, considering some of the other predictions we've shared with you all for the rest of this arc, there is a lot to look forward to and a lot to be afraid of. Please, please, please let us know what you thought about this chapter. And if you enjoyed the video, the best thing I can tell you to do is subscribe to the channel, because when it comes to bringing you some of the best My Hero Academia content on the platform, Plot Armor has you covered. As always, I am Slice of Otaku. Thank you all so much for watching and have an awesome day. I love you.